Hey lovelies, it's Kate. Welcome back to another speed build. In this video, I'm building a mansion on a 50 by 50 lot in Willow Creek. On my beloved favorite lot, you guys know it. And I started off by building some walls randomly and I raised the terrain and this looks like a hot mess. But luckily it turned out to be something. So what I did was I raised the terrain into areas. So I created this hill and it has two different levels, and then I built a chimney in the center. I think this is the first time ever that I started a build with a chimney. And then I started to work with the tool mod. So what I did was I used the tool mod to rotate the windows. I've done this in a couple of my recent builds and I just rotated them so I was able to create a round shape, and this creates the illusion of a round room. This room is not really a room because, as you just saw, I only used windows to create this round shape. I didn't use any walls because that's impossible, but it creates the illusion of a round room and it looks amazing if you want to have some type of sunroom, for example, or you could place some planting pots on the inside. I just placed a barbecue grill, a table and some chairs on the inside, so it's indeed like some type of sunroom, and that's it. Also, this is not a closed room, so it just looks fancy and I really like this look. So the way I started this build was really uncommon even for me. I just knew that I would like to have this round room, if you want to call it that, and you guys know that I'm obsessed with round shapes. I always try to find new ways of creating round shapes, but this time I was going for this very typical kind of manor look, I guess you could say. I really wanted this to look really brown and gray, this kind of color scheme. There aren't any pops of colors really anywhere, and here at this point I only have this round room and the chimney, and I then decided to, of course, add a round roof to this little room. And I used a round foundation piece for this, and in hindsight this would be my recommendation if you want to do something like this. I should have placed the round floor piece on one of the floors so it would be like some type of guideline, so I could have followed the round shape, because eventually I noticed that the round shape that I created with the windows wasn't perfectly circular. I mean, when you look at the build you don't really notice it and it's not annoying, but it was difficult to match the round floor piece at the top and the round roof to the shape. It was a bit wonky and I had to stretch it out so it's not perfectly circular anymore. And I've mentioned this before, but if you want to do this yourself, you can use one of the round foundation pieces with a fence attached to it. You make it small on both sides, and when you merge four of them together you have a perfectly round shape, which is amazing. You can't do this with a normal regular standard floor piece which is rounded. I then also decided that I would kind of expand the build at the bottom, and for this I just used a basement. And if you want to do this, you can just build a basement, then you go down to the basement, you click on the basement so it's selected, then you go back to the surface and you will see that there is a yellow outline going around your basement, and when you click on the yellow line you can select delete ceiling, and this way you can just open up your basement and it's just amazing. You can have some walk-in basements. Of course you could also do this by using the terrain tools, but here it was just kind of spontaneous. I had already laid out the shape and the terrain, and I was already in the process of building this house, so this was kind of spontaneous, so it was much easier for me to just use a basement and to get rid of the ceiling. And I think it's a great look when you think of New York brownstones, for example, where you have these basements which are open when you have like a window in the basement so they get some light into the basement, this kind of thing. This is kind of the look a little bit, and I don't know, the color scheme, it is a little bit brownstone-y. I mean, not really, but I guess you know what I mean. So I feel like this basement isn't a bad idea. And here I'm working on a mansard roof. I'm going to stop in a couple of seconds, but I'm going to go back to the roof later, so I'm just going to explain it now. If you want to build a roof like this, which just looks amazing, it's perfect for any type of mansion, manors, any palace builds. There are so many different architectural styles that fit to this roof, or the roof fits to them. And what you want to do is you build a room at the bottom and then you build another room on top, and you make the top room a bit smaller so you have some space on the sides, and then you use a half-hipped roof. If you have no idea what a half-hipped roof is, just look in your game, look at the names of the roof pieces, and then you make it smaller so it's only as wide as the space that you left, like 1 or 2 tiles I'd recommend. And then you just place it on the sides all around your room, and then you can maybe use a little fence at the top of the room that you built in the center. Later on you will see what I'm talking about, and it's a really good look. The only issue is, and you have to keep that in mind, is that you of course won't be able to place any windows around this room. So there are 2 options, or 3 probably. Option 1, you just ignore the issue and you just don't have any windows and you just place more lights on the inside. Option 2, you could use a glass roof on top, which is what I did for one of the rooms. So there are no windows going all around the walls, but there's still some light from the top, and it also looks amazing when the light is coming through the glass ceiling, just absolutely stunning. And option 3, you just ignore the room and you just don't use it as any type of room. So it's just a room that belongs to the roofing basically. This is also what I like to do for some dormers sometimes, so it's just for decorative purposes. It's part of the roofing and you can just ignore it. Another option that just comes to mind would be to leave a gap in the center and then you build another small room and you could add a window. This is also possible. It's like some type of bay window. Also looks absolutely stunning. I didn't do that here because it just didn't fit to the look of the house, but you can really make this roofing work if you want to. It just looks really interesting, and as I said, for any luxurious mansion, palace, castle build, or just all kinds of different building styles, you can really use this roofing. And it's something different for once. It's really easy. I know that a lot of people struggle with roofing, but this is really simple. As you guys know, I always like to work in sections, so I never lay out the whole build or the shape, the exterior. I just add more stuff. So here at this point I had no idea what else to add on the right side, and then I just added this room and another room on top, as you just saw, and I decided to open it up at the bottom completely. So I added these Get Famous arches, and I used a lot of debug objects once again. And here you also saw once again how I worked on the roofing that I just explained. I really used it all over the build basically. So back to the debug objects, I used a lot of them. I've said this before a million times, but I don't use any CC, so whenever you spot something that looks like CC, it's a debug object. And I feel like this build looks kind of more realistic. When I built some modern stuff, I really like this contrast of the white color, for example, and then the super neon green grass, for example. But here the whole color combination makes it look a bit more realistic, which is what I really like. And this is also why I stayed away from any color eventually, also for the flowers on the exterior, because I don't know, really wanted this to look neutral. It's just still The Sims, of course, but if I would have to name a comparison, it's like the difference between Maxi Smash and Alpha. It doesn't look super comic Maxi Smash like for some reason. I don't know why, maybe because of all the colors, but it just happened. I just added more stuff, and then at some point I noticed that it has this kind of look to it. This is also a debug object that I just used. It's a fence, and there is a alternative which is not a debug object. There is a little fence object which is part of Get Together. It's not a debug object, and it's also not a regular fence. You just find it in the decoration section, and you can just use it like this. You can rotate it, and this way you can create some round shapes, for example. So you can just create all kinds of different shapes with this fence piece actually. And if you don't like to use debug objects, or if you don't own Discover University, because the fence that I used is part of Discover University, you could also use the Get Together one for this kind of style. It comes in different swatches, also quite neutral swatches, and white and beige and all that, and I can really recommend it. And the rocks that I used, the debug rocks, are part of the Vampires pack. I like to use the Cats and Dogs one, as you guys know, because it's really easy to just merge it into the terrain. But here I just wanted this realistic look, and these rocks were just perfect. And I used the tool mod to merge it and to just sink it into the ground. And here I'm using more and more debug objects. At this point, I realized that Discover University and its debug objects are just perfect to decorate a house in this style, and it definitely added to the realism. Not that I'm saying that the whole layout of this crazy mansion is super realistic, but just the color scheme, the style. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but this is kind of the feel that I had. I also added a rock, which is part of Jungle Adventure at the bottom. It's technically a rock, but it's made out of stone, or it looks like as if it's made out of stone. And these rocks are acting so weird when you place them underneath some stairs. Like in the front where I added these steps, I wanted to place the rock there. And then, I don't know, it's like a super freaky glitch. It looks as if the rock is kind of floating and it's just moving. I can't even explain it. It's just like super weird. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. I also used a sized up dormer, just a decorative dormer, which is part of Discover University, on the roof. I sized it up, and then I used the tool mod to bring it down a little because it was just sitting on top of the roof. This is another great way of using the tool mod, just little things that are super annoying. Sometimes you just can't really place an object where you want it to be, and this is just a perfect way of placing something. And this is, I don't know, this mod, I've said it before, has become such a staple for me. At first I only used it to create some round shapes, just like I did in the beginning, but now I just use it all the time, even when I'm not creating anything round. Sometimes you just want to place something and it's not going where it's supposed to go. I've explained this before. For example, when you place some hedges and then the terrain is a bit higher, so it's not on one level, and you have some steps in between different hedges, and this is like, there's so many reasons to use this mod. It's just amazing. I had no idea what to do with the front really on the left side. I just smoothed out the terrain and I had no idea what to place there, and even in the end I wasn't really super happy. I just placed some rocks there and just some plants. It was just really tricky. And I used a base game fence to add some trellis. I wanted to have this really dark look. I mean, kind of dark, all the browns and grays, but I just had to include a little bit of white. I mean, the windows are already white, and this is just, I don't know, it just looked more balanced when I added the white and exterior trims and the trellis. It just looked very happy. At first I also wanted to use some white windows for the sunroom that I'm just building on the left side, but then I changed the swatch to a dark golden color. So I'm saying sunroom here because this is what I had initially planned. So I built this room at the bottom. I added all these windows all around the room, and I wanted this to be like some type of sunroom, lots of plants on the inside and all that. But it turned out to be the living room or the TV room. So there is a formal living room, and then we have another living room which includes a TV, as you will see when I start to furnish this build. So it was a little bit crazy, and then I built another room on top which is going to be one of the kids' rooms. And I also added a glass roof because, as I've explained earlier, I had some trouble because I couldn't add a lot of windows to some of the rooms because of the roofing, and I decided to add some fences all around the roofing. You could technically also just use a regular fence for this. There is not really a reason to use a debug object for this. I just really preferred the look of this specific fence. Again, it's part of Discover University and it looks amazing, but it totally works to use a regular fence because it technically just sits on top of the other room, and that's it. I was also running into another problem here. I wanted to make the tower in the front a bit higher, but I couldn't because I had reached the maximum amount of levels already, so I just had to leave it this way. And the vines that I'm using here are part of Discover University. I've also used these vines in my most recent build. I've just stumbled upon them, I discovered them, and now I'm in love. They are so beautiful. There are so many other vines which are part of Get Together and just different packs, but these look so much more realistic, really beautiful. I wish we had more vines like this. The shape is a bit difficult. You really have to fit them to the building because, yeah, they just have a weird shape sometimes. I wish we had a version of these in more basic shapes, just one for the corner, and I don't know, because sometimes they can glitch through the wall, which is also why I had to remove one in the back. And this is just the area that I talked about earlier where I smoothed out the terrain. I just added more stuff. These planting pots are also a debug object. also Discover University, I used a lot of stuff from this pack. So when you want to place a build and you don't own a pack that was used, the objects are either going to be removed or replaced, automatically replaced. Here I advise to probably not use this build if you don't own Discover University, because I used a lot of stuff, so you would have to remodel the whole exterior probably. Sometimes you only use a pack for a couple of objects and it doesn't really matter, but here the whole pack was used a lot in this build, I'd say, especially on the exterior though. And this is the interior, and the interior is quite colorful, and it's very different from the exterior, but at the same time it's quite similar, because I tried to stay within the whole, I don't know, it looks like a manor, like a mansion, really luxurious. I didn't want to go for some type of modern interior at all. I really wanted this to look old-fashioned and like, I don't know, like rich people live inside this house. I don't know, I just wanted to stay within the style, and it's quite old-fashioned. At the same time, it's a bit different from the exterior because I used a lot of color. So while I didn't use any pop of colors on the exterior, I decided to go all out on the interior, but it's still very muted. Like, there aren't any super bright colors mostly. I used this dark green wall color, for example. I just love this. It makes any interior so luxurious and so mysterious. I just love this color, and it's not like super in your face, it's not super bright, it's not too colorful, just like a beautiful dark blue. This is also so beautiful in my opinion, but I've said this before, I wonder if it would be a bit too dark for me in real life, but I don't know, it just looks really, really beautiful. Also in real life, when I see it on pictures, I just have no idea how it is to live in a house with super dark walls. I don't know. And then one of the bedrooms will be really red, another one is blue, one of the kids' rooms is super pink, and another one is like a bit peachy, orangey. So I used a lot of color on the interior, but I still wanted this to look really luxurious and like, I don't know, like a place for rich Sims who live in a manor. I also incorporated a lot of white, just some bright colors to have this contrast. The curtains have this very bright pastel blue, the spandrels are white, most of the chandeliers are white, and then the fireplace mantle is white as well, so I tried to incorporate a lot of brightness as well, just as some type of contrast. I didn't want this to look too dark, like some type of vampire mansion. I was really trying to find a balance, which is also why I used some counters in the kitchen with some brighter countertops. They are part of Realm of Magic, I think. So I really tried to find a balance, which can be super difficult for me when I'm furnishing a house like this. This is also something that I was struggling with while I was working on the multi-level mansion that I released, I don't know, a couple of months ago. It can be really difficult to make the interior look really dark, but at the same time not too dark, so it still looks fresh and, I don't know, fancy. But I hope that I nailed it here at least a little bit. I really did my best. I also cluttered some areas a little bit, so it looks like a beautiful, happy home. Also, as you've probably noticed, I used these spandrels in combination with some columns in the kitchen and living room area. And if you want to do this yourself, you can simply place a fence and then you can add the spandrel above, and then I just like to use the sledgehammer tool to get rid of the fence at the bottom, and the spandrel remains, and then you can just place some columns. Maybe there is even an easier way to do it, but this is how I like to do it. You could also replace a wall with a spandrel, so you could also just build a wall, but these are the only two methods that I know about for spandrels on the interior. But I don't know, maybe someone has an idea. If so, just leave a comment if you would like to. And this here is one of two bathrooms. There are 2 bathrooms and 4 bedrooms in this house, so there is a lot of space for a decent sized sim family. And also one of the kids' rooms is supposed to be like some type of twin bedroom of her siblings, so everything in this room is like double. So I have 2 beds, and I built a really fancy homework station. This is what I like to call it. You will see this in a couple of seconds. But first, I'm working on the red bedroom that I mentioned earlier. So I decided to just go for a different color for each bedroom. I just really love the dark green that I used in the whole living room kitchen area and all that, and I figured this dark red is also just perfect for this kind of style. It has the same style as the living room. It's really colorful, but at the same time, like something in a castle or anything. I just love this color. It's really, really red. It's like red overload, but at the same time, I just love it. It looks really, really glamorous. It looks a bit dark. This would also be perfect for a vampire mansion, I have to admit. Even though I wasn't going for this look, as I said earlier, but this bedroom is like really mysterious and really glamorous. This kind of makes me want to build a proper vampire mansion for real. It's been a while. I added a sofa and just multiple things. I really decorated this room and made it look really almost a bit spooky. And this is the blue bedroom, and I was going for the same style. I just used a lot of blue objects. For this, when I'm building something like this, when I'm just going for a specific color, I really like to filter by color. This is something that I only figured out, I don't know, a year ago or something. I talked about this in a speed build then. I was like, oh my god, I just figured out that you can filter by color, which just makes sense because when you look at the filter option, and I've always filtered by pack, it's right there. You can filter by color, but back then I never used it, and I can totally recommend it. It's just amazing. Also, if you, I don't know, just if you are looking for a neutral swatch, if you just want something in gray or beige, you can just filter by these colors and you can find different objects, and it's just an amazing tool, an amazing feature for building, in my opinion. And this is the kids' room, and one of the kids' rooms. And I just love how this turned out. So I eventually placed the glass roof on top, as I said earlier. So I just wanted to have at least a little bit of natural light in this room, because no windows, and I wanted this room to be so happy and sun flooded, so I just had to find a way to incorporate some natural light into this room. And this is the homework station that I talked about earlier. So what I did was I built a half wall, then I placed 2 desks on one side, and on the other side I placed this Discovery University table, which can only be used with some bar stools. And on one side, they can just sit on the computer, and on the other side, they can sit down and do some homework. And then I just placed a bookshelf in the center and just some clutter, so it looks like a really fun station for doing homework. So this room is obviously perfect for twins, but you could also let some siblings move in. They don't have to be twins, but I just think it's super cute. And I also want to say thank you so much. We recently hit 70k subs on this channel, and I just can't believe it. It's just crazy. I've never thought that I'd ever see this number. You just start your channel, you do what you love, and I'm still doing what I love, but I don't know, it's not about the numbers, but in the beginning you never even imagine that this could happen. It's just amazing. And while it's not about the numbers, milestones are still important, and I owe all of this to you. I'm really grateful, and it's just amazing. I just can't believe it. 70k, it's just insanity. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful for all of your constant support. So many of you have been around for a long time now. Some of you are just new, and maybe you just stumbled upon my channel. Either way, I'm just grateful for all of you, for all my viewers, for all my supporters. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And this is the second kids' room. So this one is a bit different because it doesn't look like a typical kids' room, and it would also be perfect for a teenager maybe. So I think that this is kind of in between. You could just remodel it to make it look more like a typical kids' room. You could also remodel it to make it look more like a teenage room, or like a regular bedroom maybe. And this is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. You can find this build in the gallery. As always, it's fully furnished, CC free, unmodded. Even though I used the tool mod, it's still completely unmodded in the gallery. So in case you download this lot, I hope that you enjoy it and that your Sims will enjoy it. I hope that you have a perfect weekend and a perfect week, and I hope I see you in the next video. Bye bye.